What is going on, good people? You got Phillip Edge. I get a lot of people asking and inquiring, Phillip, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? So just figured I'd get you up with me today and just take you out and show you what a day is like in the life of Phillip Edge.
Edge life, you're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh.
My name is Phillip Edge, and I claim Louisville, Kentucky as home. Childhood was, I would say, it was pretty awesome, amazing. The crazy thing was my dad was in the military, career military man. And in being a career military man, I mean, we traveled everywhere. We lived in New York. We lived in Germany, we lived in Texas, you name it, it seemed like we were there. But the commonality was we were always around military families. I'll never forget when we moved from New York to Louisville, Kentucky. I was mad at my parents because you're leaving New York to go to Louisville. I didn't know anything about Louisville except basketball and horses. That's all I knew about Louisville. So I didn't talk to my parents from the time we left New York till the time we got to Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, as a matter of fact. We pulled over into a gas station. When we pulled over into the gas station, it was a Tuesday. My dad got a USA Today newspaper. And I'll never forget it was a USA Today newspaper because at the back of the USA Today newspaper, they have the Super Prep 25. And the first thing I said to my parents after that long drive is, let me get the sports section. And they gave it to me. And I remember opening up the sports section and I was reading, and the number 2 team in the nation that year was a school called Louisville Trinity High School. And I spoke to my parents and said, since we're moving to Louisville, I'm going to this school. I didn't know anything about Louisville Trinity High School, but I wound up going there. And that was a school that I wound up going to high school in. And literally, it's an all-boys Catholic high school. And there are so many things that you learn going to an all-boys Catholic high school. But the number one thing that I learned was teamwork. I learned unity. I learned how to work in environments where maybe you were not the majority, because I was not in that environment. In fact, there were probably, 50 students of color, and probably 30 of those played on the football team. So there wasn't a huge population, but I learned so much from that. And I really began to understand what brotherhood looks like and how we can take off and peel back some of these different layers that society is trying to put on Front Street nowadays, and really get behind that. I was watching one of the sports announcers the other day, and he was talking about the locker rooms and how the locker rooms can really change things and change the dynamic. And I'm a product of that. My high school, we wound up winning a state championship my senior year. And to this day, there are people that I talk to, that I call brother, that I love on, who are uncle to my children, because of the locker room and those experiences. But it would have never happened if I wouldn't have got that USA Today newspaper, because that changed my life.
I'm joined by Benny the Butcher.
This is D from the Projects.
Rick G.
Dr. Kelly Lucci.
Hey, what's up, Mr. D. Wilson?
It's Michelle Visa.
Unleash Star Muhammad.
TJ Iceberg.
This is how I came up.
This is how I came up.
And this is how I came up.
How you doing? My name is Sam Hill, host of How I Came Up. Do you have a success story that you would like to share with the world? If so, please go to ScoBlueTV.com and submit that story. And just maybe we'll allow you to share that story with the rest of the world.
Anything plus God equals certain victory. I'm in the right place. It don't matter what they said about me. I'm taking a leap of faith.
My faith is the cornerstone of everything that I do. One thing about me, I've been in ministry, oh my gosh, since 2003, actually pastoring churches. And I was young, but I was called into that realm and into that arena. So from a faith perspective, faith is the cornerstone of everything that I do, that I live, that I breathe. Currently, I also serve as a role as the executive pastor of a church in Atlanta called Crossover Church ATL, or Crossover Church Atlanta. We are literally the only urban hip hop church in the city of Atlanta that is all about urban hip hop. So yeah, man, faith is a cornerstone of everything that I do, everything that I'm about. Man, it's who I am. And when you can recognize who you really are, man, you can change everything. But it has to start with you and self-awareness.
If you don't quit, you can't lose. If you don't quit, you can't lose. If you don't quit, you can't lose. You can't lose. You can't lose.
I own a company called Edge and Associates. Edge and Associates, literally, we're about helping leaders lead well. And that right there, that's what my life is all about, man. Trying to figure out a way that we can help students lead well, figuring out a way that we can help business owners and entrepreneurs lead well, figuring out a way that we can get corporate people to lead well. What we've realized is that if you can lead well, you can live well. And that's what life is really about for us. The thing that got me into this realm was football. Now I know you're like, how in the world does football and leadership development, how do those things go together? For me personally, I grew up playing football. I've been playing football since I was 6 years old. I shared with you that my dad was in the military, and one thing that my dad would never not do was miss any event. In fact, my dad coached me the majority of my life. So I grew up thinking I was gonna be a football player. I was gonna be the next Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, you name it. And being on that football field, you learn things. You learn ways to connect with people, to talk with people. There were things that the football locker room kind of destroyed. It destroyed racism. It destroyed people, thinking differently about it. It destroyed socioeconomic issues. And for me, growing up in that environment, there was something that began clicking. There was a spark that was in there. And I tell you, my junior year in high school, we're playing a high school football game in Louisville, Kentucky, in front of 30,000 people, largest high school football rivalry in the country. And in front of 30,000 people, I wound up tearing my ACL. And when I fell down to that ground, there was something that kind of went over me. Probably like many people right now, when you have a major injury, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going on. But I went down and literally it was like in my spirit, I felt something say, hey, listen, this is not over. And I didn't really understand what that meant at that time. But through battling back, I figured out a way to share my journey with people and to begin talking with people and sharing with people not to give up. You got to keep on going. You got to keep on pushing. And that really was the precursor, if you will, to motivational speaking, to leadership development, to helping people to be their best self. Crazy thing for me, even after tearing my ACL, I wound up getting a scholarship. I wound up playing college football, and that was all great. But 4 years later, on the same exact day, I wound up tearing my other ACL. So again, when you talk about what things that I go through, it was really the mental psyche and the mental ups and downs and battles that I had to go through, battling through injury, battling through depression, battling through the issues that you have with self, and trying to live up to this thing that people, they said about you, and trying to live up to your press clippings and things like that. And I'm telling you, you can never do that. And once I realized and I let that go, the real me was able to blossom and truly come out. And that's where I stand now. So when I'm able to look at other athletes and other people in the business world or what have you, I can look at them and say, you know what, you don't have to try to be somebody else. You don't have to do those things. You just have to be the best you. So let me help you to be healthy. Let me help you to be whole. Let me help you to get your mental psyche together so that you can be the best at it.
Edge life, you're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh, gotta get it in your head, baby. Welcome to the edge life. You're too close to the ledge.
Family. How important is family to me? Let me back up a little bit. First of all, I'm married. Been married for 20 years, have 5 beautiful children and 1 grandchild. I know it probably doesn't look like it, but 1 beautiful grandchild. And I remember when I was working in the corporate arena and corporate environment, doing leadership development there, I was driving one day from my house to Jacksonville, Florida, and things had been going on, and the pressure and the stress had been mounting, and I found myself on the side of the road just crying for no reason. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And I don't know if you've ever been there before where you just start crying and you don't know why you're crying. I was in that place. It was at that very moment that I called my boss at that time and I said, look, I'm done. I'm going back home. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And he literally said, what are you talking about? What's going on? And he tried to walk me off the literal bridge that day, just say, no, you can't quit now. And he says, what's going on? I said, listen, I'm on the road. I'm traveling. I'm gone 3, 4, 5 days a week. And the thing that is super important to me, which is my family, I don't even see him. I'm doing all this, and my son called me on the phone, and my son says, Dad, when you coming home? And I can't tell him when I'm coming home. My son would call me on the phone and say, Dad, I got this or I got that, and I wasn't able to be there because I was literally in California or in New Mexico or in Florida, so I wasn't able to be there. So one day I stopped and I wrote this down. I said, what are your top priorities in life? I asked myself the question, and literally I wrote them down. I said, God is my number 1 priority. My family is my number 2 priority. And then, career aspirations, that's number 3, 4, 5, 6, on down the line. And then I asked myself a second question. I said, how much time are you spending with your priorities? What's the things that you're saying are valuable to you? And I looked, and the number 1 thing that I was spending time with was my career. And the least thing that I was spending time with was my family and my faith. And I said, something is out of whack and I can't do this anymore. And that is where I was that day, driving in Jacksonville on the side of the road when I called my boss and I said, I cannot do this anymore. I'm done because my priorities are out of whack and the things that I find value in, I'm not even spending any time with. Last straw was my son. I wound up coming home. I didn't quit that day, by the way, but I wound up coming home and I'm talking to my son. My son asked this question. He said, Dad, so why are you here again? And I said, because I live here. Now he didn't know all this other stuff was going on, but I said, because I live here. And he's like, well, you're always gone. And that was the last straw. And from that moment on, I said, you know what? No more. No more am I going to put things over the things that I prioritize, like my family and my faith. I am going to keep the main thing the main thing. And from that moment forward, I made a conscious effort to love hard every single day, to get into my faith every single day, and to get into the things that are important to me. And guess what? If there are things that are not important to me, I will look at my priorities, and if they don't line up, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do them. But that in and of itself, that's part of the reason, that's part of the way that you can be successful, right? In finding your priorities and finding the things that you find valuable and finding the things that you find important and keeping them important. Because if they're really important, then you'll spend time with those things. So family, super, super important to me. You know, now every single day I'm able, again, to eat dinner with my family. I'm able to see my wife. I'm able to see them smile. And check this out. And even when I'm not at home, when I'm traveling, I got this great tool called FaceTime that I can still be at home with my family. Because again, if they're a priority, you got to make them a priority. If they're important to you, you got to make those things priority and important to you. And that's what I'm doing with my family in this season of my life.
Hey, have you heard? We're going live tonight on YouTube.
What's next for me? You know, my biggest thing right now is being able to just continue helping winners win and helping leaders lead well. That's next. That's now. I think that's forever. I believe that I'm going to be that 80-year-old guy at the barbershop, you know, giving that extra wisdom, because that's who I am. It comes out naturally. I don't gotta search for it. So I think that's next. I think the other thing is, I'll give you this little nugget. Might be looking at a little reality show. Shh, don't tell everybody. No, seriously, just really being able to share what life is really like behind the scenes, especially as a man of faith, living this life, children, family, business, all of these things combined. What does it look like? And being able to give the real deal of what that looks like, and really not trying to candy coat that. So I believe some of those things you will be seeing here soon, coming down the pipe. This is Phillip Edge, and this is how I came up.
Generational curses and circumstances. We only moving forward, progressing major advances.
What is your name and where are you from?
Hello, my name is Sam Hill. I'm the host of How I Came Up. How I Came Up is a platform for our entrepreneurs and professionals to share their successes and their struggles. And hopefully, they'll give us some tips to success. Now let's get to it. This is How I Came Up.